Yes, sir. We here, baby. That Sony presentation. I'm assuming we're gonna get the PS5 Pro. Probably a teardown. Maybe a teardown, like they did with the original PS5. Maybe like a teardown. An announcement, a price. They'll probably start off with showing like the history of the PS5 and where it's been so far, and then they'll probably show. Then they'll probably show the PS5 Pro, and then a breakdown. Oh no, let me go back. I was trying to look at this shit because this is where speed. I think this is where speed was gonna go soy 6. I was looking at his stream earlier, but I was like, nah, let me get some extra sleep because I got up dumb early today. No, way earlier than I used to. All right, I'll put that there. Put that there. Oh yeah, let me open up the stream here too. Yo, what's good, cuzzo? I think they're gonna reveal the PS5 Pro today. Somebody said GTA 7. Yo, one thing you can count on is niggas to say some funny shit in the chat. This is this this is free. Make sure y'all follow my dog Cardiac Arrest, man. I'm telling you, remember these names, man. Remember all these names I be saying in my chat, bro. Cause we gonna take over the world. The world, Craig. I'll put this over here. What'd you say? Yeah, I was hearing talks. Not GTA 7 before 6. Imagine we get GTA 7 before GTA 6, because you know that's like the ongoing meme. Like, yo, we got da 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 before we got GTA 6. We get GTA 7 before GTA 6. Nah, GTA 7, we'll probably be 50 by then, and I'm gonna still be gaming, and I probably still be making content. I tell you that. If I ain't blow off, if I ain't pop off and do something else already, if I ain't an actor by then or something, or like a fucking rich ass stock investor or some shit. Now, if they do this shit and it ain't no PS5 Pro, this day Sony really scandalous. We got 170K people in here, and it's only gonna go up. Well, not my stream, but you see the actual Sony stream. Why it's like whenever it's like a shorty that's like super bad and she about her money and she just be chilling, she kind of out the way, or at least she give off that appearance on social media. They always be having like a handful of jobs, and then you don't know what they do on the side. What they do on the side, but they always going somewhere, always in the club, always on vacation, always doing something. It's either they a postal service worker, a security guard, postal service worker, security guard, front desk secretary. Oh, hold on, it doesn't matter. It's time.
Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console lineup, PlayStation 5 Pro.
Yes, sir.
Gaming technology.
Yes, sir.
But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional gaming experience.
They ain't waste no time.
When PS5 debuted in 2020, it brought a lot to the table. 8 Zen 2 CPU cores form the brains of PlayStation 5 and enable high-speed, complex gameplay, with character counts reaching into the hundreds and frame rates that can be as high as 120 frames a second.
I dig it.
PS5 has a powerful RDNA 2 GPU, which can render anything from intricate details to fantastic worlds with vast panoramas to explore. Ray tracing allows for dramatic visual improvements, including reflections off of
that water
glass, and the realism that comes from real-time global illumination. A custom SSD can load data at breathtaking speed, resulting in ultra-fast transitions between game worlds and data streaming rates so high that traversal speeds are essentially unlimited.
How can nobody say Spider-Man was an amazing game?
Audio tech brings an unparalleled sense of immersion to the sound of the games. With audio so real, you may not even need to see the enemies to know exactly where they are. Finally, the DualSense controller has haptics that let you feel through your hands what your character is experiencing inside of the game. It's wonderful to see such variety and richness of game experiences. Creators have made amazing use of the hardware capabilities, but when I talk to them, I do hear about their desire for more graphics performance. The dreams of the developers are bigger than can be supported at 60 frames per second, and that leads to an aspect of modern gaming that we're all familiar with: graphics modes. It can be a difficult choice for players. Fidelity modes emphasize the visuals, typically through higher resolution rendering. These modes might also have enhanced detail or use more ray tracing. But the games only run at 30 frames per second. The visuals can be choppier and the controls less responsive. Performance modes emphasize frame rate and interactivity, typically choosing to run at 60 frames per second.
I missed that game. Ghost of Tsushima was so good.
Mainly by reducing the graphical detail until those frame rates can be achieved. When asked to decide on a mode, players are choosing performance about 3/4 of the time. Removing that decision, or at least narrowing that divide, is one of the key targets for PlayStation 5 Pro. We want to give players the graphics that the game creators aspire to, at the high frame rates that players typically prefer. To do that, PS5 Pro substantially improves over PlayStation 5 in 3 ways. Here's what we call the Big 3. First, we made the GPU much larger and increased the speed of the memory it uses. The result is rendering that's up to 45% faster. Second, we made major upgrades to the ray tracing, taking a streamlined and accelerated approach that allows calculation of the rays at double or even triple the speeds of PlayStation 5. And finally, we added custom hardware for machine learning and an AI library called PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR for short. PSSR analyzes the game images pixel by pixel and can add an extraordinary amount of detail, which boosts the effective resolution of the games. Game creators are adding PS5 Pro support to new and existing titles. And with the Big 3 involved, the results can be pretty amazing, with graphics showing something like fidelity levels of detail, but at double the frame rate. Here's The Last of Us Part 2 running on PS5 Pro. It has huge amounts of detail and targets a super smooth 60 frames per second. Let's compare this to the fidelity mode on PS5, which is only running at 30 frames per second and is therefore much choppier.
You can kind of see the difference. The fidelity
This
mode on
goal
the PS5
of
is a little
delivering
choppy.
almost fidelity-like graphics at performance frame rates has been achieved for a broad set of titles, including Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. We can see that PS5 Pro is close to doubling the power of PlayStation 5. Another way to compare the two consoles is to look at PS5 Pro versus Performance mode on PS5, both of which target 60 frames per second. What we see here is a difference in detail. PS5 Pro is much sharper and crisper than PS5. For this, my favorite is the parade scene from Ratchet & Clank. Distant details are much clearer. And here we can see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene, including the trees and procedural cars. So overall, some remarkable improvement to the games. On PS5 Pro, we can see increased sharpness to the graphics or smoother and more responsive gameplay. This is the big three showing their value. As you've been seeing, machine learning via the PSSR library is being used quite broadly to add pixel detail and boost frame rate. But there are as many approaches as there are game engines. The increase in raw GPU power is being especially effective for Horizon Forbidden West. Apart from the detail boost, that extra graphics power is allowing for improvements to lighting and visual effects, as well as to the hair and the skin in cinematics.
Open up, guys. Dwarf's orders.
Good enough for me.
Ray tracing is finding broad usage as well, particularly when the games are focused on higher frame rates. The faster hardware in PS5 Pro can make a real difference, allowing Gran Turismo 7 to add ray-traced reflections between the cars in gameplay, while continuing to support their targeted 60 frames per second. That boost in ray tracing is also delivering big wins for Hogwarts Legacy, allowing not only for better reflections and a greater variety of reflective surfaces, but also for further realism in the casting of shadows. I hope you've enjoyed this run-through of the technology behind PlayStation 5 Pro. Simply put, it's the most powerful console we've ever built, and a worthy addition to the PS5 family. Let me wrap this up by giving you a quick look at a number of games running on the new console.
You'll never break a legend, 'cause they don't know we are legendary.
Oh, the rumors was true. The leak was true. Okay. Well, that's how it would look. Ghost, what's going on, bro?
Close your eyes. It'll be worth it.
Okay.
Did I do it? Oh, what is
I've
this?
been chilling, bro.
What's with all the neon?
Oh, that looks clean. That Gran Turismo, damn. Hogwarts looks really good too. Been alright. Everything alright? Good. Vertical sense. Oh, y'all scandalous. $6.99. Oh yeah, so yeah, okay. November 7th, $6.99. And y'all still selling. Y'all still got the nerve to sell the stand separately. Y'all scandalous, Sony. $6.99 is a little crazy, but it had to be more than the PS VR 2. So okay, I get it. I get it. That was it. That's it. That's what they're gonna do. Nah, Nah, Sony, y'all scandalous for that one. Vertical stands sold separately. It is gonna be $7.99, $6.99 USD. Everything's good. That's what's up, Lurk. Appreciate you, gang. Nah, I can't get with it. Yeah, I can't get with that 700. I'll probably trade my fat one in to get the new one. I'll probably trade my fat one in to get it. Because if I do that, it'll probably knock the price down to like at least 400. But I'm not getting it no time soon. I'm not in the rush. I'm not getting it no time soon. Cause I'm happy with my PS5, to be honest. Let's see what IGN got to say. Sony, y'all scandalous for that.
It was a big three, but he talked about the big three. He talked about the PS5 Pro having a larger GPU, 45% faster.
Why is the audio so low?
Advanced ray tracing, double and sometimes tripling the speed. AI-driven upscaling, which I thought was pretty unique. What were our takeaways from this?
Wow, the OD.
I think my immediate reaction is this is
turn their
going to
mics
be
up, bro.
a
What's up?
Fantastic console for people who don't own a PS5 yet and haven't played any of those games. The thing that was really missing for me from this presentation was that big new sort of killer app that says you got to buy this. Had a pretty rounded selection of launch games to go with it to sort of justify jumping from the PS4 to the PS5. Maybe you could trade in your PS4, get a PS5. It was 2020. We were all inside. We had nothing to do. There was a lot of good reasons to get that thing on day one. This is a significantly more expensive version of the console than the one I bought in 2020, which was $400 for the digital version, $500 for the disc-based version. And I saw a lot of really awesome benefits and
for
bells
no
and
new
whistles
games
coming
is
to
kinda
games
wild.
that I've beaten already. And
but they
I
had
don't
the
know
price
if I
at
wanna
above the
play those again.
PSVR. Because the PSVR
I
was
really
like,
like what they're doing.
was
I
like,
think that the idea of getting
like
rid of the
$550.
sort of choice between performance and quality is a huge step. Right, and it's obviously the biggest selling point of this console because
so it
always sucks having to do that. But there was nothing here that really said to me, "You have to buy this on day one because of this game." It was just stuff I've played already, and I don't know if it's if I really want to replay all these games all over again and spend $700 to do so.
Yeah, no, that's 1,000% like my opinion too, Brian. Like, you guys know me on this cast. I've played all these games that they've shown. Like, yeah. I've probably got the platinum in all the ones they showed today. Like, it's really tough for me to go back and want to play these games. And yes, they're going to look better. They're going to perform better. I don't see myself, if I get a PS5 Pro, I don't see myself going back for more than a sightseeing tour and maybe taking some more photos in the photo modes for these games. I'm really intrigued to go back to Horizon Forbidden West and check that one out because that game looks fantastic already. The physics with the water and everything in that game looks just amazing. So I'm excited to kind of test that one in it. And maybe like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I need to do a second playthrough of that one still. So like maybe that's one that's like the only. I think that's the only one. They should have
announced a new game with it to make it.
I think that's one that I would
sweeten the deal
go back and revisit on PS5 Pro, but
for no new games.
It's not this like game-changing thing that they've shown. Like, yes, they said what was it? I think they said 3/4 or 2/3 of players choose performance over fidelity. That makes sense.
Yeah,
we want those nice frames. We don't want to get in a boss fight and miss a dodge or a parry because of lower frames. And so it's nice to it's gonna be nice to not have to choose as much.
You gotta pay that pound.
As much
you gotta pay that
penalty when you choose.
You gotta pay that
euro
for that bad boy.
Mode,
I mean, well, it's the same. It's
depending on what you prefer.
It's the same price in euro.
This is a tough pill to swallow for most consumers at that $700 price tag for these. I don't want to say marginal because those percentage increases are nice percentage increases, but for what gamers already get, it's gonna until people see it in action and have it in their hands, I think it's gonna look marginal to them.
I guess they trying to scale it to like a PC, like a PC like with this kind of performance will probably run you nearly 1,000. A pre-built definitely will run you 1,000, 1,200.
But like I was watching this, on my laptop hooked up to a, fiber internet hardwired thing, and I have it on the highest possible YouTube settings, and I'm still kind of doing like a what's wrong with this picture comparison shot, trying to figure out, where are the actual improvements? Like like Mark Cerny really had to kind of guide our eye to be like, here's where this is really showcasing the power of the PS5 Pro, and it's kind of an Emperor's New Clothes thing because like, did the trees really look that bad in Spider-Man? Not really
at all. Yeah.
No.
Like, were you upset at the crowd in Ration? I didn't even know there was a crowd.
Looking at the crowd, like there's
background.
But the other thing that jumped out at me is how many of these games are on PS4. Like that's the thing. The thing that's holding back next gen is not next gen hardware. It's the fact that people haven't migrated enough. It's the fact that PS4 has such a massive install base that developers aren't really. There's no incentive to push things further. And if anything, as just demonstrated by Concord, pushing the boundaries, trying to make this very polished, incredibly high-tech thing that takes 8 years to develop is a detriment to getting the game out there and getting people playing it. Like, the problem with games is not that they're not pretty enough. The problem is that they're too pretty. The problem is that it takes too much time to make these games. And again, like, you look at the most popular games that are being played on PlayStation, most of them came out in like 2016 or 2017, and they just gotten regular updates. Like
the most popular currently and for years now have been annualized sports games and shooting games and games as a service games like Fortnite, which people play on their phones. Max, you brought up something that, like, the statistical overwhelming majority of PlayStation users are still playing on PS4. There are more people playing on PS4 than PS5, which asks several questions. One, what will get them to buy a PS5? And two, is it a $700 console? I don't think it is. I think that the reason they're playing on PS4 is because it's getting most of the games that they want. The rest are pretty much going to PC out of a handful of a few of them. Most notably recently, Astrobot, which is probably my game of the year. Adore that game. At no point in that game did I say, I need to choose between these graphical settings. There aren't enough sprinkles on the ice cream level here. I really need the power of the PS5 Pro for that. I don't want to be cynical about this thing, but I do think it is attempting to solve a problem that in an incorrect way. Like, you need more people to migrate from PS4 to PS5, and I don't think a $700 price tag is what's holding them back.
The PS4 Pro, not to just kind of compare these things left and right, but like the PS4 Pro was an answer to a question that people were asking. Like, people were getting 4K TVs at the time, and you still had a console that was outputting 1080p.
Right.
People wanted higher frame rates. People wanted HDR. That was a literal difference between night and day when you were looking at like the shadows in HDR. They were showing off. I remember they were also they showcased upcoming games when they revealed the PS4 Pro. I think Days Gone was still on the. And they were like, check out how these hordes of zombies look with the PS4 Pro. This is impressive. They didn't show us anything that isn't out yet with this thing, which
that's right.
Yeah. And again, that goes back to Sony not having anything. Like, we don't know what's coming out next. Like Wolverine, we haven't seen anything from that. Like, everything is.
I want to point out a major sticking point here too. The PS4 launched at $399, right? $400 for shorthand. It then dropped by $100 by the time the PS4 Pro came out and launched at $400. So you're looking at a system that when that launched, you had a choice between a $300 entry point into the current generation or $100 more and you got 4K HDR. Right now, we're looking at a situation where the base cost of the PS5 globally has gone up in many territories. It hasn't price dropped. It hasn't gone down. They just raised prices on controllers the other day. They launched the PSVR 2 for $550. So this is now $700, which is $300 more than the PS4 digital that I bought in 2020. That's a huge ask. What made the pill to swallow a little easier for me on the PS4 Pro upgrade was that I traded in my PS4 for a PS4 Pro. I don't remember how much I got for it, but I don't remember spending more than like $150, $200 for it. I think I got a pretty good deal on it because the system had only been 3 years old at the time. PS5 is currently 4 years old, turns 4 in a month or two, and I don't know if I don't know
like
what I
by
would
the
get if
time
I traded
niggas buy
that in
this shit,
towards this
then
thing.
you
I
gonna
have
have
a
the
feeling I
PS6
would
coming
probably
out.
end up paying
2020,
300
like
something bucks out of pocket at the
2027.
least, maybe 400 bucks
Niggas
out of
buy,
pocket.
niggas is gonna be just
Right?
buying
Who's gonna
it
like?
at the end of
What are they gonna give me
probably.
for that thing? So $400 to basically see the crowds in Ratchet. Like, I don't want to be reductive about it, but like,
$400
you're
for
right.
subtle
Like, we
details
didn't see
that most
the
people
big
don't
next
notice.
thing that's going to
So this is
sell
really for the
people
hardcore.
on why they need this. Obviously, it's it's going to be future proofed. This console and whatever Xbox does are going to be the definitive place to play Grand Theft Auto 6, right? The biggest, arguably the biggest media event of the decade, if assuming it ever comes out. And it's going to add a bunch of bells and whistles to things you already want. But to kind of pull up that point Max talked about earlier, the issue right now is that we have 7 to 8 year long development times for AAA games because we're quite literally forest from the trees. We have to spend years and years making water textures and individual leaves, and then a game like Astrobot comes out that took just a few years to make and had a small studio. It's the most highly reviewed game of the year. It's likely going to win Game of the Year, or at least be nominated in the top 3. And I think that that's what people are looking for. Like, you can play Fortnite at max settings on your PC, but most people aren't. Like, a lot of people are playing that game on Switch. Nintendo has the best-selling console of this generation, or whatever generation they're in, and they don't even make 4K games officially. 7 years after that system launched, everything they put out is still 1080p. Like, they're making a Zelda game and a Mario Party game this fall, and no one's like, oh, where are the 4K textures? Like, I feel like we're getting a little too lost here, and I feel like Sony is basically saying we want the customers to deal with it and recoup. Like, this is for a very small and specific group of people. Now, $700 is a great deal for what this thing can do comparatively when you look at building a gaming PC yourself, right? You're getting a fantastic value there, and I want to stress that. I don't want to undermine that. But you're also getting a walled garden of a console, whereas the flexibility of a gaming PC is that you're going to get a lot of these same games. You're going to have the modular components where you can swap in and out over time. This is going to carry you over until the PlayStation 6, basically. And if that's something that interests you, then sure, get it. But I genuinely don't see this moving the needle for PlayStation. I don't see this moving people off of the PS4 generation. I think they're going to largely look up and be like, I still get my Call of Duties and my Maddens and my FIFAs and my Fortnites and my Apexes, and I'm going to play those over and over and over again until my system explodes.
No, back to your earlier point, like, the price point is a huge thing. Like, one of the things that was exciting about the PS4 Pro was this sense of like, oh, just when your launch PS4 was starting to feel like a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit, you're like, oh, that feels like a while ago. And also, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years later, it's like the $400 you spent back then, it kind of feels like you kind of forgot about how much that hurt. And you're like, all right, I'm ready to go back in again. And, you trade in the thing you already have. In this case, like, Sony just made the DualSense more expensive. Like, they're making things more expensive and then announcing a thing that's more expensive, and it's moving the goalposts in the wrong direction, and I just don't see it. I mean, you'd think that this announcement would also come with, hey, a price cut for the base PS5. And people are like, hey, cool, check out the PS5. I don't know if you need a Pro. I'm not really a professional PlayStation player. I'm just more of an amateur. Let me get in on this the ground floor. But, like, yeah, again, there's nothing here that really this feels like it was for Mark Cerny. Like, I love the dude. He's brilliant. He's clearly, like, he's a quantifiable genius, and it's, like, really cool to see him get to show off the stuff he's been working on, and I'm fascinated by this. I love to watch, like, this dude's GDC talks and stuff like that. He's he's brilliant, and it's really cool to see technology being pushed, but at the same time it's kind of like I mean, I made the comparison on one of our shows that it's like a supercar. It's like a Lamborghini that goes 500 miles an hour, which is cool. Where can you drive a car 500 miles an hour? Who can afford a car that goes 500 miles an hour? How many people can actually safely drive the car 500 miles an hour? You're missing this infrastructure. How many developers can afford to make games that actually take full advantage of the system?
And at that point,
I need to point out some more interesting stuff too. And I think
no
some of
games
you are
out
going to
there
be
can do
very
that.
upset by this listening. That's an all-digital console. That is a $700 console that doesn't.
I ain't even peeped that.
So you will need to purchase that separately and add it on if you
can't
are
even
a physical
slide the
game
disc in
collector,
there.
which I know a lot of you are. Me, I'm all digital, so whatever. But a lot of you, especially in this day and age where games are getting delisted and disappearing and need massive updates and patches and all this sudden have online modes and all that stuff. you are going to need an add-on for this. So unless you are completely all digital, that $700 price point doesn't even begin to scratch the surface for you. You're going to have to buy an additional thing to slap that beer gut on the side of your PS5 Pro and
slap the beer gut on the side of the PS5.
Pre-orders do go live on the 26th, if that's something you're interested in. I'm seeing a couple more details spin out about this thing, but yeah, you're going to need a disk drive for the PS5 Pro. So on top of that $700 in America and even more elsewhere, you'll need a disk drive. If that's
did they announce the hard drive size?
$80 for the slim PS5
for the
disk
drive,
is $80.
and another
so you're looking at
another whatever $40 for that vertical stand if you really want the vertical
Pro,
stand.
If you have a disc that you would like to play at some point in the next 5 years until PS6 comes out.
Well, look, I'm getting this thing. My Uncle Scrooge McDuck, so I'm definitely going to get this thing. But anyways, I want to talk about something like, look, I think what they should have shown us to kind of justify the price tag is something new. Obviously, I know this isn't a state of play, but they probably should have showed us like something new, like new game footage from one of the upcoming games. But I don't want to dogpile too much. I feel like you all did a great job. I kind of want to talk a little bit positively about this thing, about this PS5 Pro. Again, I'm looking at this from the standpoint of like someone who's like super excited for Grand Theft Auto 6, which is coming out next year, and I feel like we're really going to see this thing shine. We're really going to see that game shine on the PS5 Pro next year, and all the other games that are coming out next year. I think that's essentially why this is dropping in November. Obviously, that price tag is definitely what, again, a lot of people are gonna. I mean, like $700 is a lot of money, and like how much did I pay for the PSVR 2? And we see, how happy I am with that piece of hardware. So. Yeah.
2 on the blog.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is that's a sizable improvement. That is substantial. That feels like, and again, like SSD. Storage space is not cheap, so that kind of takes a little bit of the burn off of that price tag. Again, still, it's just, yeah,
it's another thing I will say is to the testament of the PS5, even the base model. If you remember back the PS4 base models, when we were hearing about the PS4 Pros, the PS4 base models were sounding like jet engines. They were getting really loud, overheating. There's a lot of those issues, and so that was another reason for us to incentive for us to upgrade to a PS4 Pro. The PS5 base model doesn't generally have that issue. I've heard some people's PlayStation 5s are a little bit louder. I don't know if the PS5 Pro is going to solve any of that, but that was one of the other things we had last generation's upgrade had for it. This one I don't think needs that type of benefit. But to Akeem's point about some positive things, they're ray tracing. They talked a lot about ray tracing, and while I'm not the biggest fan of ray tracing, it's not like and when I say biggest fan, it's not an essential thing that I consider when I'm picking up a game. Like, this ray tracing is going to make this game so much better. I'm going to have 10% more fun. It doesn't work that way. It's just like, oh, this is going to look great. And there is a good library of PS5 games that use ray tracing. Things like Gran Turismo 7, Hitman 3, they showed Hogwarts Legacy, there's Resident Evil 7, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. There's a lot of great games that have that ray tracing that really benefit from it. So getting a more improved ray tracing and having more access to more games is going to be seen as a improvement for those who do decide to pick up the Pro.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I don't know if the audience that considers ray tracing the end-all, be-all, best thing to come to gaming is a big enough audience to justify the bigger price and such.
Who was waiting?
I think it's a great addition.
Who was waiting to play these games? Like, they show Hogwarts. That was the best-selling game of last year. Like, The Last of Us 1 and 2 are phenomenal titles. Two of the greatest video game stories ever made. I love them dearly. I never want to see them again. Like, I've played those games. I've enjoyed them. I've beaten them. Spider-Man 2 was a blast. It was awesome. It sold really well. I don't need to play that game again. Like, who is looking at this and saying like, oh wow, I've never heard of any of these titles before? Like, almost all of these games were like hit best-selling games. They were either the best-selling games of the month they were released or the best-selling games of the years they were released.
This is the sizzle that you should show alongside a price cut announcement. This is the kind of thing we used to get when they're like, hey, it's the PS4 Slim coming out this holiday season for $299 or whatever it was. Like, it
Is that
feels
what
like
Apple
it completely
does?
is missing
I feel
mark.
like Apple does that, don't they? Like when they show a new iPhone, then they cut the previous phone down.
Price on the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that should have been something that we should have seen.
And that's like I think that by and large, and we can probably all agree here, that the mid-gen console refresh ideology, right, which is something that largely started last generation, unless you want to count stuff like the N64 expansion pack, which came bundled with Donkey Kong 64. It was largely to basically split the fan base into people who really, really care about next generation graphics, and also at the same time service an audience who hasn't come into the building yet, right? And like you just nailed it, Akeem, like that is an idea that was basically taken from Apple and mobile phone companies in general, being like, we're going to put out a more powerful one every single year, right? They just announced the iPhone 16 yesterday. I didn't even bother looking at it because I was just like, my 15 Pro Max is awesome. I'll look at this when I need to see it. Nothing really was like, you have to get this. But at the same time, they dropped the price on older models. You can get into the Apple or Android sort of, space if you want to at any entry point. Whereas on PlayStation, like there's a PS5, there's a PS5 Pro, and those have two locked price points. Like I said before, they literally just raised the price of the PS5 in Japan because of taxes and all this other nonsense. They raised the price over there. That was preceding this announcement, where they announced the most expensive consumer-based console ever made that also doesn't come with a disk drive. Like I'm sorry, like I'm kind of flabbergasted by this. This thing with a disk drive and taxes costs double the price of the PS4 cost. Like just about. Like that's insane. And say you want a second controller to go with it, they just hiked the price on that too. What are we doing here?
I mean, the PS3, remember the PS3 debacle? There was so much issue with launch PS3s and their high price points. And we thought Sony learned from those higher price points after that PS3 era when they came out with the PS4 at a lower price point. And then the PS5 came out at that, right around that same range of a better price point for consumers. And now we're just kind of back at that point.
No, it's a pendulum swing. Like it's this sort of hubris where like the PS3, the backlash to that kind of humbled them, and then PS4 they came back swinging, and then that put them on top. And then this gen they're doing well, they're selling just fine, but I feel like in a way that's kind of not really benefiting anybody. Again, it's just someone pointed out yesterday was the anniversary of the Dreamcast release. And I'm just like, oh yeah, that really expensive thing that came out kind of mid-console generation and was like, too powerful for the time and not powerful enough for the next time, and somewhere in the middle. And just, a lot of people loved it. Again, that was also trying new things. Going back to the phone comparison, there was that point where like when Apple would announce a new iPhone, people would be like, oh, I got to get this thing. And like that time has long since passed. Like I feel like most people, and again, part of that is because the tech kind of ran out of places to go. Like you're kind of like, how many more megapixels can you actually add in a way that makes it impressive? How many more, features can you add without completely leaving everybody with earlier models behind, but also making something that people want? And like,
right.
Yeah, we're kind of there with the consoles too. And it's this whole thing just kind of feels like a monkey wrench, because now like developers are going to be pressured to make their games really sing on the PS5 Pro, which is more time and resources taking away from just making the games. And I don't know who this is for. I don't know who this device is for.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honestly, I definitely want to see the numbers once this hits market to see how many people actually pick this up, because I think we were. Weren't we surprised or shocked by how many like units the was it the PS Portal sold? I mean that did well for Sony.
That did very well for Sony. I don't know if we know actual numbers, but I think it like exceeded expectations, right? But that I don't know what expectations were, so it's hard to say. I do think
unit sold.
1 unit sold, and we did it, guys. We sold 5. No, and I think that that's a cool device, and it serves a very specific purpose. It can only do one thing, as the ads say. I do remember reading that the PS4 Pro, and we never officially got numbers, but I think through some like back channels we sort of did, sold around 14 million units, which is like roughly on par with the Nintendo Wii U, basically, right? Like it's pretty solid. It's a decent addition to what the base model PS4 bought, but a lot of those people just didn't really migrate. They didn't really migrate, and like they suffered when they tried to play games like Cyberpunk on them at launch, a game that never should have come to last gen. But when a bunch of cross-gen games did launch day and date on PS4 and PS5 at the same time, a lot of them said, oh, cool, I don't need to migrate over just yet. Or Sony's new business model, which is, hey, we're not going to just go cross-gen, we're also going to put our games on PC. Now, with a handful of games, right, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Astrobot, which is literally built around putting together a launch model PS5.
It's not worth the
which
price.
I guess that'll need a patch now.
Like the way they presented
it's there's not
like,
in Returnal, obviously,
the
the Demon Souls. There's a handful of really awesome games that are
like
locked
I told you
specifically
yesterday.
and exclusively to
I'm
PS5.
probably not gonna.
And yes, I guess they'll benefit
get
from
it
this
day
thing,
one.
but
I'll probably.
I just don't see the average consumer sitting there going, you know what's stopping me from jumping into next gen?
There's no new game that came out with it, and like
between quality and performance.
Another $700.
I just can't deal with it. That's why I'm stuck in my launch model PS4.
Basically, minute details
like,
that you probably won't know. That most
listen
gamers
and look.
won't notice.
There's going to be
people like us might notice, but
loud
most
and
gamers probably won't
and
notice.
Significant majority of you listening right now that are probably going to be like, Brian, you're being a hater, like you're I'm gonna love this thing. I don't want to take that excitement from you. The tech in this thing looks incredible. It looks awesome.
I didn't let myself get too hyped for it.
You're going to be future-proofing yourself on AAA titles for the rest of this generation. And if you can get a good deal trading in your base model PS5 and you can get this, I don't want to take that excitement from you. I'm one of those idiots that like trades in my phone every year or two to get the newer one because of the slight bump in megapixels and other BS, right? But I don't see this moving the needle for the average game fan right now. I don't see this moving the needle for the average consumer who globally is feeling
not for the average consumer.
Pain in their wallet and purse, right? Like it is incredibly expensive to go anywhere and do anything right now. And so I just don't really see the average person saying, hey, I could buy 10 games for the price of this thing. It's $70 a pop.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brian, what game are you looking forward to most? What
great.
PlayStation 5 exclusive title are you most anticipating?
I don't know. I mean, I just adored Astrobot, and again, like at no point during that game was I like, God, this thing's ugly.
No, I mean it's a trick question. Like, what are the PS5 exclusives we know about?
I mean, I want a controller with better battery life.
We're waiting on Wolverine.
We've seen the CG trailer. They haven't shown anything that benefits from this. So Sony's job right now, I mean, their job is to make electronics for a global corporation, but whatever. Mm-hmm. But they need to come out swinging next year and really justify why this thing exists.
Yeah.
Like, if we don't
there needs to be a whole slate of games.
If they don't come out with like a library of games that is really taking advantage.
Because when the PS4 Pro dropped, it was needed because that PS4 was starting to sound like a jet engine. Like they was upping the quality of the games.
Electronics
to the point where it was pushing the PS4 to the limit. They had to hurry up and drop the PS4 Pro. Now the PS5, I don't even hear it. When I play it,
you look at
Microsoft, and I play it almost every day.
Company. They make software. They make
the games
look
great. The games look
Nintendo,
amazing.
They're a toy company. They're a game company. And you see these corporations kind of lean in those various directions, and they have these habits. And in this case, it just really feels like, this is a high-end stereo component, but like it's not. There's the scene in Boogie Nights where Don Cheadle is working at the hi-fi stereo and he's trying to sell people on why they really need like a new hi-fi system with the subwoofer that makes you want a freaky deaky. And the people are like, yeah, I just don't hear it, man. It's not really moving the needle for me. And that's kind of where we're at. Like it's just it's escalation. It's you're just trying to sell the next big thing, and like that's definitely appeals to some people. And it's gonna be like if you have a choice of buying a new console right now or this fall, I guess, weird time to buy a new console, but this is going to be the one that future-proofs you the most until they announce the next thing.
Until they announce the PS6, which will probably be in 2 years.
Are currently on PC.
Quite a bit.
95% of them?
Yeah, for the most part.
And so if you truly, deeply care about playing these games at the best possible settings humanly possible and imaginable, while also owning a modular box, which admittedly is going to be way more expensive to build than a PS5 Pro. I want to make that abundantly clear. If you build a PC with these specs, it will cost you more. But you will have access to a massive library of games from the last few decades and not a walled garden. You will have access to mods. You will have access to emulation. You will have access to Steam, you know, and GOG and the Epic Game Store and a million.
Yeah, you're paying
things.
more
And,
for that
like,
though.
I'm a console
if you're just
guy. I like to sit down
a
at the end
Sony
of the
fan,
day and
that would just
my little box.
You don't have a PS5 yet, which I don't know why you wouldn't.
Have to worry about
then I guess
any of it. Right, I just want to
be
play
justified
games.
at that
I have
point.
gaming PCs.
But if you have a PS5
I enjoy
already,
playing
I
games
can't
on those too,
justify
but I like
going
at the end
out
of the day,
and dropping
I like to play
another
console games.
$700.
But if you really truly care
that's
about
assuming you
playing
don't
these
trade in
games
the
at
old
best
one.
possible settings, like you're probably going to build the PC, and in a few years in, you're going to swap out the cooling system and the graphics cards and all the other stuff. Right, you're going to add more RAM. Like all of that stuff is that's the way PC players build. Like they have a box, it's modular, they swap parts in and out, and they spend that kind of money every couple of years rather than just like trading in a console they bought and getting a new one. And most of the games we saw today, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, you know, Hogwarts, all that stuff are all on PC where they sold incredibly well, where you can play them and you can add mods and you can do whatever you want. And so I struggle to really find exactly where this is going for Sony without knowing what they're working on next. And we've all said it, and I will say it again. We have not seen Ghost of Tsushima 2.
They might as well have put the PS Vita out. Like they heard they was working on PS Vita too. They should have put that shit out.
I mean, we know Wolverine's coming, right? But like we haven't seen it in ages outside of leaks.
Yeah.
So instead, we're forced to just look at these same 6 games over and over and over again that have been released and re-released and remastered, and where the F is Bloodborne? That's how that really done it for me today. That really would have got me to go. Like,
I was waiting for you to bring the Bloodborne into the conversation.
I mean,
Brian.
We're 40 minutes into this, and we haven't said the B word yet. Where is Bloodborne? Where's the 60 FPS Bloodborne? There are people that have gotten that run on PC this week. Like I'm tracking that whole community. I'm tracking that whole scene. I'm fascinated by it, and you know the fans are going to have to do what Sony isn't doing. And instead of taking a beloved video game from almost a decade ago that's locked at sub 30 FPS and 720 1080p or whatever it is with screen tearing, dithering, and all this other garbage, they haven't shown us that. They just show me the stupid crowd in Ratchet and Clank that I don't even remember being in that game.
So speaking of crowds, I've been like watching chat I've been watching chat throughout the stream, and you know there are a lot of people that are agreeing with our sentiments, but there's also a decent portion that are like, I'm that target market. I'm the person that this is for. I don't care. I'm gonna spend the money. I want that best performance, and that's great. And like Brian was saying, like we don't want to rain on your parade. We want you to enjoy what you want to enjoy, spend your money how you want to spend it, and if this is the choice for you, go for it. I also took a look at, we ran a Twitter poll. We're running a Twitter poll right now, so you can go to IGN's Twitter and vote there to make your voices heard, chat. But right now it's like 83% that are not interested in this PS5 vote. Granted, It's still early. The poll's only been open for an hour. That may swing a little bit, but it's at something like 10,000 votes right now, which very small sample size, so I will couch it in that. But, you know, 8,000 of those 10,000 people just aren't hearing it. And I really want this PS5 Pro, but I can't want it more than Sony wants me to have it.
Right.
You know? And it's I need, like we're saying, we need the games. We need to see what's coming.
What's it for? It's for playing games. What are these games? These are games we already played. Like, it does feel like one hand doesn't know what the other one's doing, and like the hardware department is like clearly ready to come out and be like, hey, check it out, we made this cool thing. And Sony has games in the works. We know that. We don't know how many of them have been canceled following recent live service game debacles, but there are things in the works. There are things cooking. And there's a stretch there where Sony would come out at E3 and they'd be like, check it out, here's what we got in the works. And they would show all these cool things. They'd show us all these awesome, sizzle trailers, logo reveals, stuff like that. And then we would spend 3-4 years being like, where is it? Where's Spider-Man? We all stand out like J. Jonah Jameson. We're like, bring me pictures of Spider-Man. Show me that wall crawler. And like, we're at this point where like we know that Wolverine's coming. We know that GTA 6 is coming. Those are both going to be like, those are games I will play in a heartbeat. Fantastic. Those are both, I'm sold. Nope, no questions asked. But again, put a picture of Wolverine next to the new PlayStation. Get a single side-by-side screenshot from Rockstar. Rockstar is totally just like, over there eating popcorn, being like, "We're fine, we're cool. People are going to buy this on everything. They don't have to worry about a damn thing." But it would be nice if, I don't know, somebody drove a dump truck up to money of somebody else's house and got some studios on board, got something to be excited about. Because right now it's when you're like, check out what Hogwarts Legacy looks like. Okay, and that's on Switch, dude.
Borderlands 3, they're showing like Borderlands 3. It's like these games aren't. I don't even think they chose the best like technical marvels to show this off. I don't remember. I might have missed it, but I don't remember seeing any GT7, one of the like most graphically impressive games on the PS5, that would have sung with showing some of this ray tracing stuff.
They showed like, some Gran Turismo 7 in there.
Did they show some?
Yeah.
Did they show some GT7? I just missed it. Okay.
Again, GT7.
They showed
it's on
Star
PS4.
Wars Jedi Survivor.
And Max, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is coming to PS4. Like
it just got it's getting a last gen port. And the issues with that game weren't ray tracing. It was that it was sort of a technical mess at launch, and they spent some time fixing it and cleaning it up. But like that wasn't the issue. Star Wars Outlaws, which is a game I love, right? I had to choose between performance and graphics on that game too. That game's getting patched because the stealth sequences in the beginning are too tough. Like
just like pass fail, like they're too binary.
Exactly,
not like too tough, but they're too binary, and that's just an issue.
This won't fix that. I want to point out, IGN just tweeted this out. They said the PS5 Pro is quite a bit more expensive in the UK than it is in the US. So for $700 in the US, that is a conversion rate of $914.35 in the UK. And again, no disk drive. So with a disk drive, you're looking at $1,000. And I know that in the UK, they save a lot of money by not seasoning their food ever. And that's okay. You guys save hundreds of dollars a year by not buying paprika or garlic powder, salt, black pepper, all those things. But still, that's a lot of money, and I feel for you guys.
So we're fortunate enough to be doing this live right now. So we have chat going, and like Jada said, there are a lot of people that are sharing our sentiments. We're just being I wouldn't say hypercritical of it, because I'm looking at these comments, and there's one commenter here. Betray says you can get a 4070 Super for $520 right now. You can stick with that with an older system and get PS5 Pro graphics today and a way bigger games catalog, which is true. Like you can build a PC right now for that amount of money, like a pretty decent PC for $700 if you source the parts right. So it's like, I feel like that right there, the price tag more than anything else is what's going to turn people off, because if you are not already bought or sold into the PS5 as a console, because like maybe you're waiting for a price break, seeing $700 and the PS5 is still like, is that still $500, I believe?
Or $550 in Japan.
Yeah, like you're still gonna like probably hold off, and you're looking at the life cycle. You're like, all right, how many years are we into the PS5? Maybe the PS6 is gonna come out at some point, maybe a year, 2 years from now. Let me keep holding off, because like maybe you're a casual gamer, or maybe you're a PC gamer, so you're not like huge into consoles right now. So I don't know. I like, that's why like Cerny didn't like. Okay, when you watch an Apple presentation, they show you the price of the new phones, and they're still on that stage. They dropped what we're seeing, this screen, and then that was the end of it. No one said anything, like, because they knew people. If there was a live audience watching this presentation, this technical presentation, we would have been like breaking our phones and like throwing paper in the air, like what 700? We would have been so upset seeing that in a crowd.
Can we show that promotional image again? Because I just want to point out they did it. They hid it so you don't see that there's no disk drive, which again you'll need separately. And the vertical stand, it's standing up in this picture. If you don't buy that thing, it's just going to be sleeping on its side.
It'll still stand without the stand, though, right? It can still stand.
But again, like, okay, let's talk about the PSVR 2 real quick, which I know Sony hasn't done in 2 years. The PSVR 2 launched at $550, which is incredibly expensive for a virtual reality hat, but comparatively to the power and the tech you would get in competing devices, a good deal. But something is only worth, in video game land, the software you can play on it. And they did not do a good enough job today of showing the audience, showing the user base that there is a compelling enough reason to purchase this thing. They just victory lapped on stuff we've all played already, that we had no problem looking at the time. A lot of those games I played on PS4. Like, I don't care. I played a Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2 on PS4. They were two of the best looking games ever made. They saved my mental health during the pandemic. Like, I loved those games so much, and at no point was I like, this ugly piece of garbage. They did not show the roadmap for the future. They showed a bunch of games that we played and beaten already, and they showed a price tag that's one of the biggest sticker shocks I've ever seen since covering this industry for the last 15 years. And at no point do I think the average consumer is going to look at that thing and go, you sold me on it. You showed me this low bit rate live stream at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning with a very lovely scientist man who comes out with the energy of the guy that no one listens to at the beginning of an apocalypse movie. And he tried to show us these low quality videos of slightly more leaves on the trees and slightly more people in the crowd and Ratchet and Clank.
The game that lets the PS5 Pro, you'll finally be able to see the forest for the trees thanks to enhanced AI-driven ray tracing.
Man, and I'm looking at Twitter right now, and the average consumer is just like, what are they doing? What is this? What is happening this generation? Mm-hmm. This is a company that in the last 8 days shut down a $250 million 8-year in development live service game because it couldn't attract
Not 8 years,
enough
but
people.
Continue.
Yeah, couldn't attract enough people to the new casino, right? And at the same time put out a 9 to 14 hour single player hop and bop platforming lovely collectathon made by a small team that at no point really needs any of the bells and whistles. The only thing I really needed playing that game was a controller with better battery life, because you could hear it dying every time it rained in that game and it fell on the little robot's head and my controller started vibrating. That's the stuff I want. Yeah. No one needs this.
The extra the extra price tag. You also have to remember a large chunk of the audience that Sony is trying to bring into the PlayStation family with games like Astro and trying to capitalize on this younger demographic. Those consoles are going to be bought by parents during holiday times. The consoles launching during holiday times. The parents that are informed and know about the differences between the PS5 and PS5 Pro, they're already going to have a PlayStation in the household.
Yes.
They may be the ones that are
the people that know they already got the PlayStation
and just
crib.
buy an additional console for the house. They're going to do that. They're going to be like, cool, I'll get the PS5 Pro and I'll give the regular PS5 to my child.
Yeah,
exactly.
However, the ones that are the kids that are coming of age, the parents are like, I'm going to get my kid a PS5 this year. They've been great in school. They've been doing everything they need to do. I'm going to get them a PS5. They're going to go to the store and they're going to be like, do I get a regular PS5 or do I get a PS5 Pro? What's the difference? It's like, oh, this one looks a little bit better. Is that worth the extra $200-$300 that is going to that parent? Most likely not.
If I picked up my kid from first grade today and the teacher said, your kid is so good, she's like Matilda level.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, bro?
I would be undeniably prouder of her than
I didn't even notice
in my entire life, and I still
didn't have a disc until I started watching this.
Because I'm a parent, and that's a lot of money, and there's a lot of things you can get with that. And to your point, Jada, what they should be doing this fall is launching a $350 bundle that comes with the launch model PS5 and Astrobot. So you can put it underneath your Christmas tree, right? So you can get it for your kids for the holidays. It's why Nintendo every single year goes, here's the Switch with Mario Kart again and again and again, and it just becomes the best-selling console all the time. Like, get people like that. Get people into the entry point. Make them PlayStation fans for life. $700.
This drive is $80, so you're looking at $780,
right? They're going to.
And then if you want the stand,
forever. They're not.
It's like what, like $40, $50?
You need to get new people in. You need to get new.
So you're looking at.
You're gonna have an entire
fucking on the press release for this. They say
$800
copy of Astro's Playroom.
Oh, come on!
For that, you might as well start looking into a PC.
You can just if you charge people $700 for a console, maybe just include the thing you just put out. Just put out. You put the new one on there. That would be just again, like, I want that game to sell. I want people to go out and buy it. But also, if
they should have put Astro with it. That would have sweetened the deal a little bit more.
Drag and drop it on.
Not put vertical stand so separately.
It comes preloaded on this new system. Just not the one that came out 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I know, like, I don't think PlayStation generally does bundles when they launch a refresh, like an actual refresh console. I don't remember them doing bundles with the PS4 Pro or the PS3 Slim / PS3 Pro that they did. But there's always a first for anything, and when you're starting to raise the price on the console mid-generation, like maybe you need to look into what the consumer is going to look at when they're buying this and help them see the value in this. Because looking at a box and seeing a bunch of numbers and like abilities that this console can do,
yeah, I thought it would be like 600
for those that are financially.
I'd be like, it'll be like 600, and it'll come with a new game will be announced.
The benefit is what all can I get
that could showcase what it could do, or
oh cool, I get
at least put a current release with it.
Cool.
Astro would have been perfect. Astrobot would have been perfect.
It comes with a headset. I'm not saying for Sony to include all of those things, but one of those things, pick one, Sony. And I think this
because the VR, the PSVR was $550
for those fans that are on.
So you could price that out.
This exorbitant amount of
by
money
putting it at 600.
Yes.
I know there was a bundle for 600.
Now that we know what
that's probably what
PS5
they was like.
Pro
But wait,
like,
the bundle for the PSVR is 650. So we got to put it higher than that. So that's why they said 700.
Make that spaceship look like the PS. I want those stripes on the side.
I would hope.
Yeah, it shows us all games that we played already that we've been playing for years.
And it would just
Ghost of Tsushima was a PS4 game.
But
Last of Us 1 is a PlayStation 3 game. Last of Us 2,
but like there's an entire
PlayStation 4 game.
The end where
Like,
you and all the bots you collected are on the top of a PS5, and they'd be all tripping over the grooves in there and all that. You know, like
it's messing with the
Gran
level design, Brian.
is a PS4 game.
if we were to write a top 100
Ratchet
list,
and Clank,
very prone to do it, IGN, of why this PS5 Pro is a bad idea.
What is Ratchet and Clank? I think that's okay. That's a PS5 game, but still, it ain't nothing new. That was a launch title.
But still,
they we were talking about this before. There was the leaked image someone put out that had three stripes on it, and like the actual thing you could see it has 3 little vents, and we were going back and forth of like, can they legally have 3 stripes on it without without Adidas suing them? Like that's their brand. That's the brand with the 3 stripes. But I'm also looking at it and I'm like, if they don't do a Wolverine bundle that's bright yellow and blue in the middle, I'm gonna be so mad.
Great news, they won't.
It looks like Wolverine just went and scratched the thing up. It's got stripes on the side of it, like Wolverine. Just what?
I mean,
I don't know.
You already know. You already know a third party's going to do that, though. Like, I mean, you could just. I'm assuming those plates can pop off just like the original PS5.
The Slim. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the play. That's the play, guys. If you want your console to look like Wolverine, you're going to have to spend $700 so you can get the Wolverine special faceplates that blend perfectly into the little stripes.
I like how sometimes we come out here, we're like, here's some valid criticism and feedback, and other times we just shout stuff a third grader would say in 1996. So just why doesn't it look like Wolverine? I want to see what it looks like side by side with the base model, because we got that little unofficial slim version. They shrunk it down a tiny bit, and then now it's bigger again. And I'm like, how like what does this look like? what is the size of this thing?
One of you brought up the PS3 price reveal, $599 US. That was, I mean, one of the earliest like internet video game memes I remember just blowing up.
Yo, word, the PS3 was $600. That's crazy.
I think I've witnessed a moment like that happening again in this industry, and today was it. I think that this was there, and it's. This we get it. We get it every couple of years. We get that cocky Sony comes back, right? The PS4 generation historically was defined at E3 when they in contrast to what Xbox had shown with Don Matrick and the always online and the games locked to a blah blah. You can't give somebody else. Had what looked, a very crude shot on a phone example of here's how you share games on PS4, right? And it was handing a game to another person, then you go thanks, right? They won E3 that year. They won the generation because of it, and because of winning that generation where people built up digital libraries for the first time, you could probably argue that carried them into this generation as well, right? A series of baffling, decisions across the board on the other companies have led to other places where we are right now. But to me, this is their return. This is their 4K, 60 FPS, ray traced. No decision between performance and quality mode remaster of the PS3 price reveal. This is their $599 US moment, rebuilt and restored for 2024 for all to enjoy.
I agree with
We're
that.
back.
How many will enjoy this, though? That's the question. Come November 7th. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we here at IGN, we're probably gonna do a lot of comparisons to the Pro and the PS, the base, the original. But yeah, I mean, I guess the verdict is. Oh, I don't want to decide for everyone here. What is the verdict? Like, Max, are you gonna get this? Are you thinking about getting it for the second room, the spare room that you have? I've never been to your house, so I don't know if you have a spare room.
I mean, I'm in the spare room right now. It's full of crap. It's just where I do the videos and stuff. But no, I don't know. Like, maybe at some point I'll jump on this thing. Like, again, if the prospect of a price cut ever happens, maybe. But like, also right now, why? What's the purpose? Like, again, Wolverine gets me excited. GTA 6 gets me excited. Those are a long ways off. I really hope that. I mean, TGS is in a couple of weeks. It seems like a pretty cool opportunity for Sony to come out and be like, hey, we're actually making some new games. Check them out and get people excited about what 2025 looks like. One of the things we were going to talk about on this episode, if we hadn't just gone so hard on the PS5 Pro, was how last year it was hard to pick one game of the year because there were so many big, huge, massive games. And this year it's been kind of dry. There've been some cool games here and there, but none of them really feel like, you know, quantifiable, you know, capital GOTY games of the year. And I'm hoping 2025 is a big one. Like, I'm hoping that Sony has some stuff to show off besides maybe Wolverine, and then, you know, GTA 6. Like, GTA 6 is going to suck all the air out of the room, and that's going to dominate the conversation. That's going to be a killer game. I'd like to play another game besides that. You know, probably it's probably going to be, you know, at least 6 months between the ball dropping on New Year's and that game coming out. Probably more than that. So, be cool to know what is actually on the horizon, besides Lego Horizon, which is coming to Switch.
Yes, it is.
Favorite PlayStation game is this year's hottest Switch title. I don't know what you're doing.
You know what?
I mean, I love video games. I want to play them at their best. You know, I'm not exactly like a huge snob about graphics. I love the idea of the games I own looking better. I don't love the idea of me trading in my launch model PS5 and then spending that exact same money over again. Because I can tell you right now, I feel like it's going to be bare minimum $400 for me if I traded this. If I traded in my launch model PS5, which is an all digital that I bought for $400 in 2020, I'll probably get $300 tops back for it, right? Maybe. And I'll have to spend $400 again on this. Will I do it? I don't know. I'm stupid, and I've made dumb decisions with money for most of my adult life, and this is a hobby and a passion for me. So we'll see. But I just don't, right now, I don't see a reason to buy this, and I especially don't see a reason to buy this in November, when there's really nothing coming from Sony day and date that says this is why you need this. They've showed us like reheated leftovers for the 5th or 6th time now for some of these games, and I'm good, man. Like, I just don't see the average person walking into a store and saying, I need this because I need to play a bunch of games that are still on last gen with the best graphics possible.
Yeah, well, I mean,
so
Jade, I'm assuming you're on the same boat as I guess the rest of us here, right? Like,
so yes and no. So I may end up picking this up, and like, I am against this price point. I'm against a lot of the things, but for me, because a lot of my job personally deals with playing games for work and sometimes capturing stuff for work, being able to capture it in the best way, shape, and form, I can justify it as some sort of a work expense for me type of thing, to where I may be able to, like, that's my justification for it. As a pure consumer, probably not. But because of my job duties, sometimes it may make it justifiable. There is also, you know, like Brian was saying, we want something else, or maybe it was Max, one of you guys were saying, we want something more than GTA 6. There are some good third-party stuff that we have coming out next year that's going to make great use of this PS5 Pro. Monster Hunter Wilds is probably one of my game of the year choices for next year. Cannot wait for that game. There's also Dynasty Warriors Origins, I believe is the subhead for that one. That one looks great, and I feel like that's going to be a fantastic use of the PS5 Pro. So, but also to Max and Brian's point, like, where's the first-party stuff showing this? We can't rely completely on third-party stuff to sell us on this next generation of the console. But I'm on the fence right now. I'm 50-50 if I'm going to take the plunge.
You're one of the rare people who can actually like genuinely take advantage of that Pro subhead. The fact that it is called a PlayStation Pro, professional as in work, but play. Yeah. But what is it? What again? Like if you do, gameplay capture of just absolutely kicking ass in the RE4 shooting gallery, or just mopping the floor, or desperately attempting to platinum Concord before it gets shut off. Like you have a valid reason to be playing on the best possible hardware, but most people that's not the case.
Yeah. Whenever we're ready, I do have some additional news and stats that just came out on this thing too.
Well, we got to wrap soon. I'm being told, and so there's a little man in my ear who's telling me to wrap. But what are these stats that you're looking at?
Real quick, Wario64 via CNET, paraphrasing, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution will work on PSVR 2. 40 to 50 games with PS5 Pro upgrades at launch, focusing on 4K 60 FPS. And 25% of PS5 owners own 120 FPS capable TVs. Around 1 in 10 players have variable refresh rate TVs. So not even many people have TVs that will truly take advantage of this tech. So there's, I don't think we're there yet. And I think the price sucks.
I mean, even with like the PS5, going up to 8K, how many people have 8K televisions? We've talked about this before. I mean, I know one guy in LA that has an 8K television, and he never invites me over.
Has he played The Last of Us?
I don't know what he plays. Like I said, he never invites me over, so I don't even think the television exists in his house. But Max, Brian, Jade, I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this very special episode of Beyond. I think we covered a lot. And by a lot, I mean one topic, which I think was pretty awesome. So, so thank you all thank you all so much for watching this episode of Beyond, and we will catch you all in the next one. Beyond.
Beyond.
Love
you all.
Look at me in this lonely studio.
690.
brainchild of now the world's biggest video game company, and with it, they redefined an entire industry.
For a period of time there, Nintendo was a word used to describe video games in general.
It was the Christmas gift every kid wanted.
Headquarters with an exclusive hands-on of Sony's brand new PlayStation 5 Pro console that's coming out in November. Yes, I got to play a bunch of games on it. Here's what's going on. It's been 4 years since Sony released the PlayStation 5, which went by pretty fast in the middle of a pandemic. But the idea of next generation kind of lingers in my head, and probably for a lot of people. When do you buy a console? Well, Sony has had mid-range console upgrades in the past. The PlayStation 4 Pro came out 3 years after the PlayStation 4. And lo and behold, the PlayStation 5 Pro is coming out 4 years after the PlayStation 5. For $699, you're paying more, but not too much tremendously more, compared to the PlayStation 5 that is already on the market and has an upgraded, slimmer version. Compared side by side, it's also not that much larger. In fact, it's a little bit smaller than the PlayStation 5 original, which is a nice surprise because the PlayStation 4 Pro was definitely bigger and thicker. What do you get? Well, there's no optical drive. You have to buy that separately. You can use the same optical drive that's available on the slim model and pop it in. And also, it may be that a lot of people choose to prefer the digital version now, considering that there's also Wi-Fi 7, and the size of the drive is now bumped up to 2 terabytes, which is the same speed as the SSD in the previous models. Same CPU too, but the GPU is a lot beefier. It's supposed to be 67% more powerful and 38% faster, and it's going to provide better performance for all the games and a lot more things like ray tracing. There's also a big focus on upgrading the resolution of existing games. PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution is the technology that uses an AI neural upscaling using a convolutional neural network to basically just make sure the games play really nicely in 4K. And speaking of 4K, existing PlayStation 5 games, they always had 2 modes, which was either 1080p, 60 frames per second, or 4K at 30 frames per second. Sony's now offering a Pro mode that glues both of those together, and so you're getting both 60 frames per second and 4K. Now, that's exactly what I would have wanted to play in the first place. If you're interested in doing things like 8K gaming, or you want to do things like 120 frames per second, there are capabilities for games to do that, but those are going to be on a game-by-game basis. The real push here is for really nice 4K 60 frames per second across the board for your entire library. What does this mean for the future of PlayStation? I got to talk to Mark Cerny, lead systems architect for PlayStation, and Hideaki Nishina-san, CEO of Platform for Sony Interactive Entertainment. They talked about how, in a lot of ways, PC gaming right now is providing a kind of an on-ramp for some of these technologies, but also allowing Sony to lead a bit with some things like ray tracing, where they're using an AMD-developed ray tracing technology that isn't even in existing GPUs. Some of that will kind of ride ahead, and other things, like maybe more advanced graphics that you might be used to on PCs, will finally have a chance to come over to PlayStation 5 Pro. And as a lot of games now are increasingly cross-platform, and Sony's games live on PCs, you'll probably see much more of that cross-pollination. Clearly a fidelity push for people who may have really big TVs or really big AV lovers and want something that either looks the best it can be or runs really smoothly. On the big screens that I played on, you could definitely see the difference, but if you're a PlayStation 5 owner, I think you could also be fine continuing to play the PlayStation 5. There are going to be about 50 games that come out at launch with upgrades specifically for the PS5 Pro. Now, while a lot of them will involve the introduction of this new Pro mode that will be able to run at a smooth 60 frames per second and 4K performance, there are going to be others that do other things. It could be graphic upgrades to the environment, more people in the environment. So that's a console. Let's go play the games. This is Sony's PlayStation demo room where I got to try out the PlayStation 5 Pro on a bunch of games in 2 different setups. The first one got to play on 2 different monitors, checking out a whole bunch of games on the PlayStation 5 and then the PlayStation 5 Pro, looking at the 2 different play modes, fidelity and performance on the 5, and then the Pro mode on the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's Horizon Forbidden West. And then I got to play a few games on a big 80-inch screen, including Gran Turismo 7, which has an 8K mode, or alternately, one with ray tracing turned on, which is what I've got right here. I mean, this is obviously the version I would want to play. It is... the reflections and ray tracing are beautiful. I got really into playing Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and I love games like this. What's really fun is that it's just such a fast game, and I feel like the Pro makes it feel faster. So I'm grabbing one controller that's connected to a PS5, playing on a PS5 for a bit, and then I would jump back and forth between that and a PS5 Pro to see what it's like. This is the 4K 30 frames per second version of Horizon Forbidden West, which I'm used to and looks really good.
I was talking this whole time. My mic was
even better is playing it 4K 60 frames per second on PS5 Pro, which looks buttery smooth and really crisp. So, you know, it is like going back and playing it on the 30 frames. It's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, I agree, man. It kind of looks like the Slim.
Really nice. On Sony's brand new PlayStation 5 Pro console that's 5 Pro during our demos at Sony's headquarters. And they didn't let us do any close-up, real extended looks at the gameplay on screen either. But hopefully you can get an understanding of what I'm talking about for when the system debuts on November 7th. What does this mean for the future of next-gen gaming? Well, that's hard to tell because we're not maybe fully in next-gen gaming yet, but we're getting there by increments. PlayStation 5 Pro is the hottest of the new gaming technology tech that we've seen, and it's adopting some ideas that PC gaming still doesn't have yet. It'll be really interesting to see where games start to evolve and get better along with PS5 Pro graphics, but also where the PS5 Pro ray tracing and all of that tech begins to hint at where technology is going to be headed for PC gaming to come. Not everyone's going to want to upgrade to this, but I'm really curious about what games are going to start looking like on the hardware. We'll find out in November. Thanks for watching.
It is Friday, September 6th. Let's talk PlayStation.
Yo, Mystic, yo, he's a legend, bro. He's been doing content since back in the day. But yeah, I think that's it. That's it, yeah. So I'm not copping it right away. I don't see the point. Definitely not copping it right away. But yeah, I'm gonna get off of this stream and I'm gonna be right back on at like 1. I'll probably get back on Space Marine. I got stuck on this one mission, but I'm rejuvenated. I'm gonna get back on it and try to beat it again today. So I'll see y'all in a little bit. Yeah, I'm not impressed. I'm impressed by the technology, but like I'm not impressed by what was presented to me. Like, nah. Like $700, nah. No disc. This is for people. This is for the hardcore Sony heads. This is for people like him. I'm not dissing him. He's a legendary content creator. I'm surprised he doesn't have over 1 million. This is for them. Let me see if people got videos up already. PS5 Pro. The L is that they didn't show us no new games. I'm not going to say the console itself is an L, because if you do get it, you're future-proofing yourself. But the presentation and the fact that they ain't show no new games, that's the L part. The only W part is the actual console itself. Oh, look. They cooking it. Hold on. Y'all want to watch it? Y'all want to watch a few of these before I go? PS5 Pro has been revealed, and I've got to be honest. Yeah, I was definitely gonna do a short.
So Sony announced the PS5 Pro today, and what? This thing is $700.
No disc drop, $700. No game.
$700.
You got about to stand separate.
They didn't even announce any new games. They just said play the games you already bought and beat in platinum again, but better. Like,
oh shit,
$700, bro. Like, $700. It's all digital. It's no disc drop. I don't care. I like all digital stuff. Call me a bad gamer, whatever. But that, what? It comes out November 7th, 2024, and for an extra $80, you can buy the physical disc drive. What? I don't know what's going on in gaming, but I'm not pleased. Yeah. So Sony announced the PS5 Pro today, and what? This thing is $700. $700 for this. They didn't even announce any new games. They just said play the games you already bought and beat in platinum again, but better. Like, I am $700, bro.
Yeah,
like,
we're gonna look at some reactions. This is kind of funny. This is gonna be funny. Let's look at Dreamcast guy first. I'll probably give it for like $12.30.
Well, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro, because they just officially revealed it, and yeah, it's not great, but let's discuss. Hi, I'm Dreamcast Guy, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So, it's real. I just decided to do a live stream of the event of Mark Cerny explaining the difference between the current PlayStation 5 and this upgraded PlayStation 5 Pro, and to say I'm underwhelmed would be a drastic understatement. I think the PlayStation 5 is doing fine. I know a lot of people like to hate on the PlayStation 5 because it doesn't have enough games. A lot of people are straight up saying, okay, so Sony isn't even doing that much, and yet they're doing a mid-gen refresh. It just doesn't seem right. People saying, why are they releasing this? It's just something that people have to justify to themselves. I mean, Sony tried to sell a game no one wanted. Now they're selling a PlayStation 5 Pro that nobody wants. When I saw a lot of that, I initially kind of disagreed because I do like my PlayStation 5. I'm playing Astrobot. I'm doing some secret reviews right now of upcoming PlayStation 5 games, but this side-by-side comparison, they said this is more than just a standard graphics bump or improved amount of frame rate. Mark Cerny explained that the Pro has a 3-point plan inside of it: larger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI-driven upscaling, essentially meaning that it's able to just make games where you're often having to choose between performance mode, which gives you better frame rates, and ray tracing mode, which gives you a lot better graphics. They said the point of this is to do both. And I think that in some ways they have achieved that. This does look a little bit better, but even after watching that stream in 4K and actually pretty much counting pixels with my own old man eyes, this does not seem like that big of a leap. And additionally, this is the biggest deal breaker. $700. $700. And this looks like a digital edition. I don't even see a disc drive, which means there might be an $800 physical edition. Now, I'm reacting to this right after it came out. Maybe they're going to actually announce some sort of cheaper version. Maybe this does come with a disc drive and the camera angle's just funky. But it does seem like this is $700 for a digital PS5 that, while it does look better, it looks like it looks maybe 10% better. Now, some of the games they initially teased were things like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth getting a graphical boost, which is a game I like a lot. And that game definitely had some performance issues, so I'm happy.
People bashing it, yeah, for sure. Yeah, hold on. People, I'm in the comments and shit.
I am conflicted because I review a lot of hardware. I specifically love to review a lot of PlayStation hardware. I did reviews of the PlayStation 5 Slim. I did reviews of the PlayStation Portal. I even reviewed the $200 PlayStation 5 controller they released. So I want to get this to
matter of fact, make sure y'all go check out this video. Dr. Disrespect tells this side of the story. It's going crazy right now.
The same way I skipped the PlayStation VR 2 because that was like $550 and just didn't seem worth it. $700. I mean, more than anything else, I'm kind of just stuck on that price. I mean, what are the replies? Sheesh. Yeah. Skip. I mean, yeah, I laughed out loud. Hold on. I want to click Wario64 here and actually see if we're getting any sort of updated PS5. God, it's just so expensive. Disc drive for the PS5 Pro is $80. God. The PS5 Pro is a discless console, includes a 2 terabyte hard drive. Pre-orders begin on September 26th from PlayStation Direct and retailers. So I guess I have 16 days to think about it, but I mean, I feel like I am the target demographic. Now, what I mean by that is I am a hardcore gamer that plays like 80 games a year. I'm constantly beating stuff and making content, and it's not only my job, it's my passion. Literally every single day I'm buying stuff and playing stuff, even freaking Balatro and Vampire Survivors and just a trillion things from indie to mainstream. I care about this industry, and I love buying crap to look as good as possible, and let's face it, I play a lot on my PS5. I am essentially the target demographic of this and I just can't possibly care about it. Like, I am the person.
It's like, who's buying this other than the super hardcore? Like,
wow,
even
it's
then we
more
looking at it
graphics
like,
than
damn,
PS5. The fact that it's discless. I mean, I'm almost having just a crisis here because Sony has been handing out L's. I've been reporting on this, like Concord costing them like $150 million and just utterly bombing and then doing mass refunds for it. And now this. I just don't know what Sony thinks. Like, there have been studies that there is a luxury gamer ecosystem. There are people that have enough liquid income that if they're buying something, they want to have the best possible version of it. If you're buying an Xbox, you get the Xbox Series X. You're buying a controller, you want to get the most elite pro crazy programmable triggers, super weirdo, like ultimate crazy controller. I know those people exist, but I feel like catering to that demographic, trying to make a console, God, this would be...
Okay, we get it. You don't like it? Let's see what my son RGT85 said. They be getting him, Dreamcast guy, and RGT85. They get their videos out quick than a motherfucker, yo. I don't know how they do that.
Alrighty, so
Like,
today was
what hasn't even been. The shit just ended, and you already got a video out.
the big day for Sony with the unveiling of the PlayStation 5 Pro. We got a 9-minute presentation coming to us from good old Mark Cerny himself to show us the future of PlayStation 5 with a new Pro system. We got information on the system itself. We got a release date. We got a price point. And honestly, I feel like this is one of those videos that is going to be kind of controversial for some people with my opinion on this, and that's cool. Like I always say, you don't have to agree with me on everything. I'm not going to block you. I encourage people to disagree with me on things because my word is not the be-all, end-all with this. It's just my opinion on a subject. But I feel like my opinion on this subject may be a little bit different than some other people's opinions. So let's get into what we learned about the PlayStation 5 Pro and how I really feel about it. So to kick off this presentation, it was 9 minutes long. We get Mark Cerny, who looks a lot like Dana Carvey, you know, turtle. Like, I don't know, man. And that wasn't even a master disguise. That
And he
wasn't a very good
"Am I
movie.
not turtly
But we
enough for the
basically
Turtle
start
Club?"
this off with talking about the PlayStation 5 system, kind of how they came to
son
make
Luke
it and stuff like that. And like, you know,
Made a
that's
little
cool, man. I
video
feel like we're
too.
kind of just wasting a little where it's like, well, okay, you know, you could say these things, but unless you actually show them, like, you know, they're not very impressive. But of course, they did show how these three things are going to be working essentially in unison to make the PlayStation 5 Pro the system that it is going to be. And they showed lots of examples as well. And really, the main thing to take away from what the PlayStation 5 Pro is, at least for me, from my perspective, was the fact that when you play a lot of PlayStation 5 games, or really next generation games in general, there are usually two different settings that you have access to. You, of course, have access to a graphics mode, and you have access to
He does
a
look like that guy.
fidelity
He does, right? Like,
mode and a performance mode.
He
So the
does.
graphics
Like,
mode
that's
is like the
hilarious.
fidelity mode. Basically prioritizing things like graphics and ray tracing at the cost of things like frame rate. So you might get better visuals and better ray tracing, but usually it's a game that's running at 30 frames per second. Whereas the performance mode does take a little bit of a hit in the graphics department, but you are getting a smoother experience at 60 frames per second. And something that they really drove home with this was the fact that you're going to get fidelity mode-ish graphics at 60 frames per second now. And they showed off a bunch of different examples of things like this with games like Ratchet and Clank. Or
Damn, now I can't unsee it. He just has hair.
There were some blurry things in
If
the
he was
background,
bald, we
and
could
now
really
they're
see it.
clear. The Last of Us Part
What's that
2
movie he
also
did?
got
Master of
a
Disguise?
bump in the sharpness of things when you're playing the game,
Whatever
as
that movie
opposed
was.
to when you would be playing it in performance mode, but you still get that kind of performance mode like frame rate with it. And like, I guess it's kind of cool, you know. It's the one thing that I was noticing with a lot of this is, and obviously it's going to be hard to translate when it's a YouTube video, because YouTube videos, I mean, they're compressed and stuff like that. Like, what are you going to do about it? You know, we're still coming a bit of a ways when it comes to video streaming, especially like this. But, you know, when it's side by side, like, okay, you can notice something. But they did this long trailer at the end of this presentation to showcase many different games sort of, you know, running on the PlayStation 5 Pro. And it really just looked a lot like everything that we've seen from the PlayStation 5, because these are highly curated trailers that you see from a company like Sony with this. You know, these are very highly curated, so they get the right angles. They show you what they want to do. And they, you know, they also showed off some stuff like ray tracing and Gran Turismo on reflections of cars hitting 60 frames per second still, some stuff with Hogwarts Legacy. Like, I think it does look better when you're actually looking for it. But a lot of the things, just to me at least, it seemed like you had to go out of your way to kind of see it and kind of notice it.
Nah, I mean, I saw it. It looked, like, you could tell the difference. That's great. That's
and then, of
great.
Course,
but like,
we learned about the
is
price
it worth?
And the release date.
You know what I'm saying? Is it worth?
November 7th,
how can you justify that for somebody who has a PS5 already and has played all of these games, and you want $700? You want me to get up, go to GameStop, trade in my old thing, get $300 for it, and then pay? I still got to pay what, $400 for the new one? And then if I want the stand, which my PS5 came with, my original PS5 came with the stand already, I have to spend another $80 to get the stand. And then my original PS5 for $500 came with a disc drive. So now I got to spend another $80 to get the disc drive. So we looking at what, $800, like $900, almost $1,000. Nah, bro, you can't justify that. I can't justify that. Like, I'll end up just straight out buying it when I have the expendable income, and I'll sell my PS5 to somebody who doesn't have a PS5 at all. I'll sell the fat one to somebody who doesn't have one at all. I can make more of a profit doing that. Well, maybe not a profit because I'm getting the PS5 at $700, but I can get more for it than selling it to GameStop, because GameStop only gonna give me like $300 store credit, $400 store credit.
$700, and
more than anything, yeah, it doesn't make
now
sense.
We're getting into the point
more than anything, we want new games on new hardware. Facts, yeah. Give me a new game with it. At least put bundle a game with it, or be like, okay, this game is the first game to be released that was designed for the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's not coming to PlayStation 5. That would be more of an incentive to make people buy it.
Trading in your PlayStation 5. You know, it is, you know, you could probably get some decent.
Or at least they should have did the. I heard they was working on the PS Vita too. You should have did that.
Take down that price point. But $700 for slightly better frame rates and some additional ray tracing.
At least come up with a trade program.
For me, you had to go out of your way to notice it.
Like, they could have partnered with GameStop and did a trade up program. And then I guarantee you, all of those old fat PS5s that you would have sold, it definitely would have. Yeah, definitely would have recouped. If y'all would have went into like some 50-50 partner deal with GameStop, because that's like the biggest games retailer.
Ratchet and Clank stuff.
Even though they have their criticisms.
Like, oh, look, in the background, this is now sharper. And I'm like, well, I'm not really focused on the background. I'm focused on the game itself. And I understand that this is a system much like the PlayStation 4 Pro. But as a consumer, I never picked up a PlayStation 4 Pro because I really didn't see the need for it. And the PlayStation 4 Pro wasn't as much as this system was. $700 is quite an investment. This is the most expensive video game console ever to play games on a system that already plays those games. Yes, they are, you know, incrementally increased with things like visual fidelity and frame rates if you choose to do such. And I get that. Like that's definitely a cool thing. I just feel like the price point just makes this a little bit ridiculous. You know, if I didn't run a video game channel, I have negative interest in this. Well, what I saw during this presentation did not wow me whatsoever, because you could have all the technology in the world, but I need software to go alongside of that. And when you basically say, we're combining fidelity mode graphics,
whenever the new consoles come out, you gotta remember,
like, that's cool.
Whenever the new consoles come out, they cut off at some point. They cut off the old consoles at some point, like the Xbox One and the PS4 and all that stuff. So if you do that, you at least add more incentive to to people buying the game. Or you could do it like, okay, let it be on both, but the best experience is going to be on the PS5 Pro. You could do something like that if you don't want to only put it on the PS5.
Cool, but is that $700 cool? I could just turn off, graphics mode and play in performance mode on my PlayStation 5 and get a pretty similar experience. Yeah, it might not be, quite as crisp.
And I'm not saying the game had to release today alongside with it. You could say, look,
video game.
You could say, look,
you know what I'm
the
saying?
PlayStation 5 Pro drops
that's what I expected
November
this to
7th.
be.
You
But to
can
actually
enjoy whatever
see that,
game or whatever, and then boom,
that is
this game
absolutely
drops
crazy to see.
October,
So,
whatever. Like you might lose on the front end when it first dropped, but then when that new game dropped, people's gonna buy that console. One thing I know is that games sell consoles. That's what I know as a fact.
It's a slight upgrade of a
games sell
system.
consoles.
That doesn't even
when
necessarily
people get the bundles and
need
shit,
an
it's
upgrade.
because they
This is
wanted
Nintendo
a
Switch
specific game.
situation. The
I've
Nintendo
seen
Switch
it happen.
has some first-party games that dip down to like 25 frames per second. Okay, and there is no option.
It may not make sense to me or you, but I'm just saying I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Age of Calamity or something like that, or Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in handheld mode, like disgusting, low resolutions, low.
I've seen some people buy the game
so a system like
before
that
they even had the
could
console.
definitely
Like,
use
I could
a
afford the
boost
game right now, but I
it
can't
could
afford the
use-
console, so
it
I'm gonna
could
buy the
have
game,
used
hold on
a
to it,
frame rate
and
boost.
then
It could have
play it when I
used a
can.
resolution increase.
Or like I
The
said, you can do the
PlayStation
other one. You
5.
can make it for
I
PS5
don't know.
and PS5
I mean, I
Pro,
guess it's
but then you really
nice.
promote the shit
But
out of
is
the
it
PS
$700 nice?
PS
Is this
Pro.
going to,
Like, if you want the
usher
best
in a whole
experience,
new
you're gonna
era
go
of people
PS
wanting
Pro.
to
You'll
buy
you'll
this?
hook
Like,
some people
obviously,
like that.
it is the
Not
best
me,
way to
not
play
not
the
not like
PlayStation
people
5
that's
games.
like
But is it worth it to
experience
you?
in season, but you can get
buy
it.
a
I'm just thinking
PlayStation
from
5
strictly business
for
standpoint. I'm not thinking about like as a gamer.
and use that $200 to buy a couple games with it. I guess it really comes down to the consumer, and every consumer is going to be different. Every consumer is going to prioritize certain things and have certain things that they are focused on as far as their gaming experience is concerned. But for me, if I was not a video game channel, I wouldn't buy this. And honestly, if it's hard for me to buy this system, I don't think I'm going to buy it. Like, if it's a struggle to buy it, if I have a pain in the ass time to try and get this thing.
And this is a guy that's making the YouTube revenue, the ad revenue.
I obviously want to
That's
make the
infinite
video
potential,
on the system
infinite
to see
potential.
what's different about it. But man, that's a lot of damn money. So let me know in the comment section down below. How are you feeling about
Like, imagine you just spent a couple months ago $500 to get the new or $300 because you traded in your old, or $200 because you traded in your old PS5, and then now months later they announce. I think Sony they're on their Apple shit right now. If you think about it, Sony's on their Apple shit right now. They trying to milk the consumer for all they're worth. Sony on some Apple shit. See my guy Luke Steffens. I like his takes. He has good takes. He has really good takes. I'm gonna see what he says.
Nice. It will also feature Wi-Fi 7. That's
Wi-Fi
good.
7.
Much
Oh.
faster download times.
Oh.
Only if you have a supported router, though, to be perfectly clear. And Wi-Fi 7 routers are expensive.
My router's Wi-Fi 6.
And but then again, if you're spending this much money on a new console in the middle of a gen, maybe it's worth it. And VRR, that's a good feature to have. And 8K. I've heard a lot of people talk about the 8K, the 120 FPS thing. I do want to be clear. Anybody who knew anything about this stuff was laughing when they revealed like the 8K.
What you think the
logo on
PS6 gonna look like, yo? The PS6 that's gonna go crazy.
An 8K resolution.
What you think that's gonna look like?
That's all they
Like,
really
what
said.
you might that shit gonna be $1,000.
Anybody actually think that it's like reasonable to get 8K resolution? Like no. Nobody actually needs that. Here, I'll post the link again for everybody, and I will pin it this
The
time.
PS6 gonna look crazy.
Hold on. Pin. I have pinned it. It's been pinned, and then pin. Okay, that way people who come in can vote. So there's that. There's also a calculator with, let's see, ideal TV distance to couch or something calculators. There's been things like that. Yeah, Artings, these guys are amazing. So for like an 8K resolution, this is based on a 4K TV, I believe. believe that's what it is. Viewing distance, cinema.
I heard it's 8K
there's a lot of
upscaling though. It's not native 8K.
So like here you can see optimal viewing distance based on the size of the television and resolution. For 4K, Ultra HD is worth it, depending on like this is view distance versus the size of the display.
4 feet away from the screen.
If you have a 55-inch TV and you're sitting about 3.5 feet away from it to like 4 feet, then it's optimal viewing distance. You'll be able to see that detail and actually appreciate it. 75-inch TV, you can sit about 4.5 feet ish, and that's when you'll fully be able to like, you just can't make out the pixels, but you can fully take in all of the detail and all of that. To get to the point where most people are sitting away from their TV, most people are like, 10, 20, maybe not 20, but they're probably like between 6 and 10 feet away from their display. If you have a 4K TV, in order to really make the most of that, you need to go to like 75, 85, 95 inches to actually like optimally take advantage of that resolution, okay? For 8K, it's not even close to this. For 8K, the numbers are ridiculous. I've seen them before, and it's like...
I see people posting that they were buying it for GTA 6. Man, you might as well wait till GTA 6 come out if you wait. If that's the reason you're gonna buy that game.
It has to be.
You better wait. That's not coming out till next year.
At 100 inches, you have to sit 2 feet away from it to be able to see individual pixels. So it's just not practical. So the 8K resolution thing is just madness. It's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. But even then, they put it on the box. They talked about 120 frames and 120 FPS. To anybody who knew anything about this stuff, I think they were expecting.
See, look, I already found somebody that Sony. It'll be perfect.
Somebody on my Facebook. To games that I
already see people posting about it.
Obviously,
and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy it."
2 is never gonna run at 120.
He has a PS5
Slim. It is like, I don't know if that's practical. But they still put it on the box. Which either way, like it's the difference between like what a well-educated person in tech would understand is maybe an exaggeration versus what the average consumer is going to take away from that. And I think the average consumer saw all these things listed on the box of the PS5 and thought that's what they were going to be getting later in the generation. And now they're selling you a different thing for a lot more that has missing features like no disk drive, missing vertical stand, stuff like that. And they're saying this will now get you closer to achieving that goal that we told you we were going to try to achieve last time. And it leaves people feeling really ticked off because they feel as though this was supposed to be included last time around. Why are you just now like saying we can get to it in this way? It just doesn't make sense. And I think that this reflects the overall sentiment that most people feel, which is just like, are you kidding me? Like, for real? The thing I can't really justify, the disk drive, okay, I think like maybe 80% of their users are buying things mostly digital, so maybe they can just justify it that way. The no vertical stand for a piece of plastic that probably cost them 2 cents to mass produce, that is ridiculous. Like, that is nothing else than a chance to penny pinch every single little thing. Yeah, at Laserbeam, I think you're right. It comes off as an Apple move. And this comes on the back of Apple revealing their stuff. I didn't even watch the Apple event. Normally, I find it fun to check out. But I didn't even watch it because I kind of forgot it was happening. But their whole thing also is like minimal improvements. It looks the same as before. Most of the improvements are being made on the software side this year. It's all like AI stuff. But
now
again,
he's talking about
put the buzzword.
What you call it? Yeah, you got to put the new buzzword in.
And
Apple Intelligence. Yo, that's so slick of them.
Even though
they will never. Yo, Apple is so slick. Apple Intelligence,
super clear.
AI opening
like NVIDIA,
possibilities.
Or rather, Sony.
I know
Sony
companies usually put their own twist on it, but yeah.
SR. Introduce that, and that's supposed to make it
DSL,
so that they can
DLSR,
achieve
whatever it's called,
even higher levels of detail. Right? That's the whole goal.
AI upscaling.
And
see, I don't know what's the beef with people like not liking upscale versus native. Like, You know how much power it takes to like run like 4K, 8K resolutions natively. Like I don't care if it's upscaled. I've seen Digital Foundry videos. It looked damn near exactly the same. Like
that. Their attempt at making their own
barely touch this unless you zoom 100
to throw money
100 times zoom on that
right
shit.
Now on Wall Street, if you have anything even slightly adjacent to AI, investors will just throw hundreds of millions of dollars at you. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It is an actual bubble. There's no reason a company like Nvidia should be trading on like 50 times earnings. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense mathematically. It is the same thing that happened with the dot-com bubble. It's insane. Not financial advice, just pointing out reality. But I think like this to me just screams, okay, this was a corporate decision to try and get your own stuff in there. Maybe it ends up being really good. Honestly, if it's better than FSR 2, amazing, because FSR has been a plague on a lot of recent games, and I'm saying this as somebody that really appreciates AMD as a company, but like FSR is just not anywhere close to what DLSS is capable of doing, and so I hope this is a lot better than that. But even then, like my question is, okay, imagine it's a multi-platform game, like a Black Myth Wukong, for example. Their goal eventually is to come to Xbox as well.
All right, he yapping. All right, I'm gonna get off of this. And I'm gonna come back on in a little bit, probably some Space Marines, cause I gotta do my daily stream, get my watch hours in. I'll see y'all in a little bit.